You know what really scuffs my Tims? When people say,
Cartoons and anime are the same thing.
that's just blatantly false for a million reasons. I'm sorry, but if Death Parade and the Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy look the same to you, you're one camera flash away from actual blindness. Just use your eyes. Please. I can't find a decent video on the site explaining the differences between cartoons and anime. There's a few videos highlighting one or two differences, but none give a real holistic and comprehensive analysis, so I guess I might as well do it, whatever. To clarify, I'm only telling you the differences between the two. I am not saying one is objectively better than the other. For this video, I'll be specifically referring to American cartoons and Japanese anime. I'm making this a big point right now because yes, there are Korean anime and British cartoons and the different media influence each other and whatever. But for simplicity's sake, I'm drawing the line right here. Okay, let's get the smart-ass responses out of the way.
They're the same thing because by dictionary definition, a cartoon is a motion picture using animation techniques to photograph a sequence of drawings rather than people or objects.
Okay, and by dictionary definition, you can break the bun of a hot dog and it becomes a sandwich. What's your point? Keep in mind for this video, I'll be using general statements. Say it with me. General statements. Yes, adult cartoons do exist, but they generally target younger kids. And yes, there are a ton of different genres of each with their own rules. I get it, okay? Calm down, take a deep breath. I don't want any comments saying,
well, not all cartoons are for kids.
I know, I get it, obviously, leave me alone, okay? So, I'll knock some of the similarities out of the way because I'll never hear the end of it if I don't. Yes, both media are animated and use similar overall story structure, although, there's some room for debate on that one. Both also have approximately 20-ish minute episodes and a heavy usage of comedy, even in more serious series. Both make the most of their money from advertisements and merchandise, and that's about it for all the major similarities. One of the most obvious differences between cartoons and anime are their typical target audiences. Cartoons tend to target an age range from babies to preteens/young teens. Channels like Noggin and PBS target young kids, while Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon target people in the elementary to early high school range, despite what Teen Titans Go may imply. Overall, cartoons are pretty innocent and family-friendly, and most of them follow the American sitcom format. We got SpongeBob, The Fairly Odd Parents, Regular Show, and Adventure Time. All those are classic cartoons. Anime, especially its most popular genre, shonen, targets teenagers and young adults, especially teenage boys. It gives them everything they could ever ask for: tons of violence, strong language, and sexual content. They're pretty honest about it too, actually. Teenage boys like ogling at titties and watching people beat the life out of each other, and that's exactly what they get with shonen. Dragon Ball, Naruto, Pokemon, One Piece, Bleach. Those are the big kahunas of shonen anime. If you haven't heard of at least one of those, then please let me know which dungeon you're being held captive in. I will come save you. It's important to note that the humor in Japan is drastically different too. A full-grown man shoving his fingers up an 11-year-old's ass, that's comedy there. That's funny. That's the whole joke. Or a guy will trip over a girl and just magically wind up with his hand down her shirt. Over there, those are jokes, but here in America, we call them pedophilia and sexual assault. Different cultural norms. Storytelling in cartoons and anime is night and day. My biggest pet peeve is the difference in pacing between the two. American media is notoriously faster paced in general, and anime is ridiculously slow in general, so the juxtaposition is just painful to watch, especially back to back. In a cartoon, when a character swings their sword, it's just boom, one and done real quick. In an anime, when a hero swings their sword, it's like they start swinging their sword, the villain gives a monologue, the hero gives a monologue, we get the villain's backstory, the hero's backstory, and then the episode ends and you start the next episode, and then the episode plays with a long intro that recaps the first half of the guy swinging their sword, and then halfway through the episode, the hero finishes swinging their sword and the attack connects, and that's not even the end of the fight. It's like, ugh. Before all the weeaboos throw their crusty body pillows and cosplay swords at me, this isn't to say anime is worse for it, it just uses different storytelling techniques. Anime loves to use flashbacks, slow motion, heavy dialogue, and internal monologues all the time. Funny enough, cartoons actually really hate these techniques for the most part. They aren't normally intuitive to traditional American storytelling and the faster pace that I was just mentioning, but at least anime doesn't abuse cutaway gags. Family Guy ruined them for everyone. The slower pace of anime allows it to flesh out its more complicated world and rules. What do I mean, you may ask? I could explain bending from Avatar: The Last Airbender in like 2 sentences. Everyone in that universe has a natural energy within them called ki that they can use to manipulate the elements around them. The main elements are fire, earth, water, and air, but more skilled people can bend other stuff like lava and metal. Simple, right? Yeah, now let me try to explain the bare bone basics of Nen from Hunter x Hunter to you. Try and keep up. Nen is a technique that lets you manipulate your life force known as aura. Nen is also another term for aura. To use Nen, you need to learn Nen of the Flame by learning 10 Zetsu, Ren, and Hatsu, and each person has a different Hatsu based on that water type. Using the water divination, you can discern yourself as one of the 6 types, which are enhancement, emission, transmutation, manipulation, conjuration, specialization. Specialization just means you have a unique effect, but not to be confused with everyone have unique abilities. And what the hell am I even talking about at this point? And those, again, were just the basics. Diving into the intricacies and complex details of mechanics and the world they built is a staple of anime, especially shonen. The other reason anime is slower paced is because most are adaptations of a corresponding manga. Especially if both run alongside each other, the anime needs to slow down so the manga stays ahead of it. Because they follow the same story, because they're the same series. Just to make sure the manga stays ahead, a lot of long-running anime will use filler episodes to pad time. Filler episodes, for those of you who don't know, are the sin that got us kicked out of the Garden of Eden and are the true scum of the earth. Filler episodes are non-canon time sinks studios make so they could say they made something and make money without it actually mattering to the story. They're unimportant, interrupt the current canon arc, and are usually just shitted out. Some anime get really nasty with filler. Boruto, sorry, little cough there. Anime will also pad time by adding in flashbacks and extra scenes that aren't in the original manga. Another big difference people are quick to point out is that cartoons focus more on character-driven stories, and anime focus more on plot-driven ones. For example, in Avatar: The Last Airbender, we're constantly guided to think about the decisions Aang makes, how he affects the lives of those around him, and consider his personal growth over the series. Even his final fight against Ozai is framed as a moral dilemma, as opposed to a question of whether or not he's strong enough to beat him. Everyone just assumes he can. It's not can he kill him, it's should he kill him. In Dragon Ball, we don't give a damn about Goku's feelings or personal growth journey, although they're definitely there, as much as we care about him killing the Bugman or the evil Bubblegum. He's always going to fight, that's never the question. Is his power level bigger than his opponent's power level so he could beat him up? That's what we care about. The numbers. Like the nerds we are. I'm not saying cartoons don't care about plot, and I'm not saying anime don't care about characters, but they each have focused lenses which have a ripple effect on how their stories unfold. And on the note of stories unfolding, most cartoons are episodic to some degree in that they have self-contained plots that start and finish within a single episode. Anime, by comparison, is much more serialized, where arcs are told through multiple episodes that flow into each other. With the rise of streaming, more and more serial cartoons have been popping up, and plenty of older cartoons have serial arcs, but cartoons are still largely episodic, and most episodes work as a standalone, even if they're part of a larger arc. For example, you can pick out pretty much any episode of Gravity Falls or Avatar: The Last Airbender, both cartoons with multi-season plotlines by the way, and you'll pretty much understand everything that's going on. Every episode has a clear beginning, middle, and end, and has an obvious conflict that starts and finishes within 20 minutes. Now, if I dropped you in the middle of Naruto or Bleach, you're going to have no clue what's going on. Who are all these people? Why are they fighting? What are they fighting for? Who's even the good guy? Why do all the females have D cups? For no reason. You're going to be completely lost. It's common for episodes to start mid-fight with no context and end without resolving anything. Styled after the manga chapters they're based from, anime episodes flow into each other where you're watching a seamless stream of an arc as opposed to single episode stories that are chained together as is the case with cartoons. A quick note on characters. Cartoons appeal to the child fantasy. This is why children in cartoons are often portrayed to be dominant, in command, and more virtuous than the adults around them. It empowers its target demographic. Similarly, anime appeals to and empowers the teenage boy fantasy. It often places its main characters as the most powerful or most important or somewhere close to it, and has everyone just drool over their skill and powers. Also, because teenage boys are programmed to be horny, they often have a borderline harem of girls fawning over them constantly. Some series are subtle, and others, not so much. Why? So I joked about this in the beginning, but the two also just look wildly different from each other. You have to have late-stage cataracts or something if that's not immediately obvious. The slower pacing of anime also allows it to focus more on visuals and create a cinematic and visually focused experience. I mean, BoJack Horseman is one of the most celebrated cartoons of recent times, and I love it. But it looks like middle school sketches next to the likes of Demon Slayer or even Sword Art Online. Damn it. Anime also draws its characters to be more human and anatomically correct as opposed to cartoons that draw their human characters like not humans, and sometimes they're not human at all. Anime also hypersexualizes its characters because it has to appeal to adolescent hormones. I've been making that point a lot. This could be projecting, but I'm going to pretend it's not. And I'm going to leave art at that. Look at that. You know, I know my lane. I'm a writer, not an artist, and I just thought I'd mention it because it's one of the most obvious points. A season in a cartoon tends to be 22-ish episodes, and even that fluctuates wildly, although it's notable that lately studios have been buying one season of 22 episodes and splitting in half to be 2 seasons of 11, so the series looks better because bragging rights and, it's all about bragging rights out there, right? The episode per season count is really all over the place though. Some cartoons will opt to make 2 11-minute episodes at a time instead of a single 22-minute episode, for example. A season of an anime tends to be 12 or 13 episodes, but they can also come in a season of 24-ish episodes. Again, these numbers are the average and they fluctuate a little bit, not as much as cartoons fluctuate. Again, they're pretty stable with those 12 or 13 episode seasons, or they just double to like 24, 25-ish. While both series traditionally air weekly, cartoons lately have taken to the habit of coming out in batches of episodes or even a whole season all at once. This is obviously because of streaming and binge culture, and people are impatient and greedy. But not me. I only watch a season of anime per day, so I'm a pretty casual viewer, you could say. Cartoons on the low end cost $300,000 per episode, and higher end shows can cost a couple million. Cartoon animators, just pointing at animators just for the sake of comparison, get paid an average of $70,000 a year. That's pretty good, pretty respectable. Now let's look at anime's costs. The average per episode cost that I could find, at least, online, range from $100,000 to $300,000. Little bit of a difference there, just a tiny bit. Not sure if you guys noticed it. Damn, even their budgets are humble. Hey, at least the average salary of Japanese animators is close. Oh, never mind. I was looking at the wrong notes. It's actually 7 times less than US counterparts. That's tough. That's really tough, actually. To be fair, inflation in the US is a bit crazy, but I don't think it's 7 times more crazy. F in the chat for the poor animators. Now, this next part I can't speak too much about because I only know about broadcast syndication in the US, but I think it's worth mentioning anyway. So, in America, once cartoons make a certain number of episodes, usually 100 or so, 80, 100 in that ballpark, they're able to go into second-run syndication, aka reruns. Studios basically lease out their older episodes to other networks and make a metric shit ton of money. This is why so many cartoons, especially episodic sitcoms like SpongeBob, Simpsons, Family Guy, even if they're complete zombies of the show they used to be, they run for like 11 trillion seasons because they make so much bank off the reruns and leasing out the cartoons to other networks and other channels. If anyone knows how Japan does this, please feel free to let me know. I'm super curious and I couldn't find anything. In cartoons, there's a 1-year production cycle. Granted, the rise of streaming has messed with this a bit, but it still applies. Over the course of 1 year, starting in the late fall, a batch of shows gets pitched, developed, pilots made, picked up as a full series, gets advertisers and sponsors, and gets staffed before launching as a full show during the following fall. I don't fully know the production cycle timeline of an anime, so if someone does know, please, fill me in. What I do know is that the actual creation process isn't too wildly different from cartoons. You have your producers, managers, animators, writers, There are 4 seasons per year in anime, which is pretty different than the US, obviously. And these correspond to the actual seasons of the year, and each one brings in a new batch of shows. And, 12, 13 episodes airing weekly, and each season is 12, 13 weeks, so that also explains a bit of the episode format that I mentioned earlier. In this sense, anime is much more prolific than cartoons, because you get a batch every season, and there's 4 seasons as opposed to just once a year. But again, streaming has also thrown a wrench in this. And that's everything, and I cannot believe this video, after all that, is less than 15 minutes. You guys better subscribe to inflate my ego. I earned it. That's all I had to say. This video took a lot of time and energy, and I'd appreciate it if y'all liked, commented, and shared this video. And subscribe. So I could have some sense of validation, because if this video just dies, then I'm gonna die on the inside. And the next time someone asks,
what's the difference between cartoons and anime? Aren't they the same?
Point them over this way. I know it's good. I'm hoping this video can stand on the platform as a definitive answer to the question, because a lot of people genuinely don't know the differences or they think they're the same. And if I still haven't convinced you after all this time, I have one last point for you. Cartoons are made in America and anime is Japanese. Got him! Whew!